Welcome to Freya's Fairy Tales, where we believe fairy tales are both stories we enjoyed as children and something that we can achieve ourselves. Each week, we will talk to authors about their favorite fairy tales when they were kids, and their adventure to holding their very own fairy tale in their hands. At the end of each episode, we will finish off with a fairy tale or short story read as close to the original author's version as possible. I am your host, Freya Victoria. I'm an audiobook narrator that loves reading fairy tales, novels, and bringing stories to life through narration. I am also fascinated by talking to authors and learning about their why and how for creating their stories. We have included all of the links for today's author and our show in the show notes. Today is part 2 of 2, where we are talking to A.K. Mulford about her novels. After today, you will have heard about telling stories for yourself, spending 10 years researching how to write a book and self-publish it, finding an agent, landing a 7-figure book deal, writing in the time available to you, taking care of your mental health, and focusing your energy on the people that enjoy the things you like, and inviting them into your world. The Rogue Crown, a novel, The 5 Crowns of Ockrith, Book 3. The action moves west in A.K. Mulford's romantic, action-packed epic fantasy series The 5 Crowns of Ockrith, as young Fey warrior Bree investigates the murder of her queen while protecting the beautiful princess she may be falling for. Determined to uncover who killed the Western Queen, Fey warrior Briada Catalyst sets out on a mission to defeat the witch hunters and safeguard her princess. But when she arrives at the Western court, things are even worse than she feared. The icy reception from the Fae is the least of her problems. They've heard the prophecy that Bree will seize the crown from its sovereign, and the last thing they want is for her to usurp the throne. No, the witch hunters are out for royal blood, and it will take everything Bree has to keep them at bay. It doesn't help that, still grieving the loss of her mother, Princess Abelina Thorne, is reluctant to allow Bree into her confidence, only agreeing to let her serve as one of her guards at the behest of the princess's cousin. As the threat of the witch hunters grows, they find themselves thrown together, working closely to uncover the secret plot of their enemies. Along the way, the princess realizes that Bree is one of the few people she can trust. But Bree is determined to forge her own path and prove the prophecy wrong, not letting the beautiful Lena distract her from defeating the witch hunters. She has a duty to the princess, a duty to the Western court, and a duty to her own destiny. But what about the duty to her heart? Now, I talked to Ann Kemp a couple months ago at this point, and she says you guys oddly figured out that you are in the same country. How did that happen?
Yeah, we're practically neighbors. So she made a TikTok and we were TikTok friends, and she was walking around and I saw like the coastline and I was like, that's like Wellington, that's New Zealand. And I was like, are you in New Zealand? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, I am too. And so then we like messaged each other with like the towns we lived in. And she's like 10 minutes down the road from me. And I thought she was just my American friend on TikTok, like, and she thought the same of me because of our accents. So,
Well,
yeah.
that's weird because both of you are from the US. Both of you met your
Yes.
husbands in a different country from the US, and then both
Mhm.
of you moved to New
Both of our husbands
Zealand.
are named Glenn. Like it just, yeah,
Oh.
it's crazy. It's so similar. And we have so much in common. And yeah, she was one of those people, like, I think before I was like walking to meet her at this outdoor cafe because like,
Mhm.
COVID. And I think before I even reached the table she was sat at, we'd already decided we're gonna be like friends. It's just, those people are, we have this like gorgeous little writing group of friends who are just these, like, they're the soul food people, the
Mhm.
people that you meet and you just hang on to. And
Mhm.
because, like they just like fill you up with so much joy. And yeah, it's just really, really awesome to have people that I can, share my career with and who get it. And yeah, she was one of
Right.
those. And I met her through TikTok.
So what are some of the biggest things that have helped you get from no books published at all to where you are now? Like, what are big things that you think helped you get to where you are now?
I mean, do you know the Clifton Strengths at all? The, like,
I've heard of it,
okay,
but I
Becca
don't know.
Syme and yeah, I'm number 1 input, which is just like, I just wanna know all the things. I'm an
Well, 10 years
information.
researching,
Yeah,
self-publishing, yeah.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, so, I mean, I definitely think researching helps. I think reading books about publishing helps. I think getting involved in the community helps,
Mhm,
and starting to do your own research into your genre and what you want to write and what other people are writing that's successful and why is it successful, and starting to think critically about all of those things, like, from the kind of metadata side of, like, everything from craft and how to write a good story to, how to produce a good quality book.
mhm,
I think all of that's super important, but then also I think there's also like a mental health side of things that also needs to be kind of acknowledged and catered for in, just sticking with this career, because so many people get burnt out. um, it's kind of a never ending cycle, and so
mhm,
I think a lot of people, just get stalled out somewhere along the way and forget to keep going and
mhm,
kind of lose that momentum. And so that perseverant energy and finding like ways and mental health strategies, self-care strategies so that you feel good about continuing on, I think is a
right,
really important thing. For me, it was I have a gratitude journal that I have, like, just one just for being an author, that I write all of the like little joyful moments in,
mhm,
um, that then I can go and reflect back on, because I think we're all just so forward focused, like, who do I need to call? What do I need to do? I need to email this person, that we forget to like appreciate all of the like successes and all of the little joyful moments, or when somebody emails you and tells you how much your book means to them. Like, we appreciate it so much in the moment, but then we're like on to the next thing and forget
mhm,
to like hold on to those moments of joy. And so all of those things are huge to me and really help me keep going when I'm feeling like stuck, or, like, I don't think it matters what level of success you get to. I know some like pretty famous authors who have terrible imposter syndrome, and you're like,
right.
how is that possible? But it happens to everyone. And so I think, just
Narrators
being
too.
protective. Yeah, being protective of that mental health, and finding a way that you can keep going at things even when you're feeling down, or, like, we all have tons of failures along the way to success too. And so, finding ways to keep going and make this a sustainable career, I think is, really important too.
So while you're writing, because you talked about, like, not getting burned out or whatever, so while you write your books, are you constantly thinking of, like, "What do I wanna do next?"
Yes. Yeah, I'm a very, like, futuristic person. Like, I like to think into the future and have a
Mhm.
plan, and even if that plan completely changes from month to month, I like to have one. So I have, like, the rest of this series, the rest of the next series, another series planned out in my head, possibly other genres and pen names in the future, all kind of, like, planned out. So, yeah.
Now what
I've
reason
got a lot of plans.
I know, like, I've heard quite a few authors use different, like, different genres will have different pen names. Is that kind of what you
Mhm.
plan? Keep the fantasy
If
under.
I do if I do it, yeah, there's still, like, a whole bunch more fantasy series I want to write, so those will probably happen first. But, yeah, while I'm doing that, it might be fun to do something else, and I'd probably use another pen name.
Now, do you and your publisher have kind of a set, release date schedule that you're planning?
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to have, um the Road Crown comes out in October, October 25th, and then the next book in, this series, The Evergreen Air, comes out in the spring of next year, and, the first book in the new trilogy comes out next year too, River of Golden Bones, in the fall. So you're going to get, a book from the new trilogy and a book from the current series each year for the next couple of years. Yeah, I'm excited.
And now how many? Because you said you were planning, like, novellas and stuff. How many novellas do you
Mhm.
plan on doing in the Five Crown series?
Originally I had planned 5, but there might be 6 now. because I can't help myself. And there could be more in the future too. All of the novellas are kind of these little flashback moments from characters in the main series. So it all
Mhm.
takes place in the past. And I think a lot of people just really enjoy being able to kind of
The
hear more from those
histories.
characters and
Yeah.
yeah, where they came from, what they were like as when they were younger, what kind of informed the person that they became in the story.
Mhm.
And so I've had a lot of different readers ask for different people. So there might be novellas coming for a long time. Who knows? It'll just depend. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done the first series I remember reading that had, like, these novellas planned in there was the Shatter Me series. Um,
Oh yeah.
and she would do, like, between each book, she had a novella, and it was usually from another person's perspective for, like, some particular scene that
Mhm.
happened during the book or, like, between the books or whatever. But that was, like, the first series I remember having that. But then I also read um Cinder is the name of the book. I don't remember the name of the series. It's, Marissa something Cinder. It's
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
like classic fairy tales, but they're all
Mhm.
robotic.
Yeah.
Like, all
Yeah.
the characters are robotic. And, like, that series, she has these little, like, very like, short stories, not even novellas. They're, like, short stories that are, like, intermixed in there that, to my understanding, she released on, like, a blog and then did a book,
Mm.
like, combined them and then added a couple later on in a book together. Um,
Yeah.
but I like
Yeah. That would
the
be cool
idea
to
of
do
that.
that one day. Add all the novellas together into like one book as
Yeah.
like the last book in the series. Yeah.
Well, like Tahara, her books, I think that's how you say her name. Hers, she does the combined. So each series will have three main books and then two
Mm.
novellas. And so she'll release the two novellas together once like the series is finished.
Yeah.
So now there's six books because she did a like spin-off secondary continuation series that has the same thing, three main books, and then I think there's actually two novellas and then one that's essentially another full length. I think it's like a hair shy of full length novel length because it's
Yeah.
like it's a big boy still, but
I love that. I mean, I think that most authors, especially indie authors, like we just want to like give people what they want. And so when
right.
people want more of something, we're like, okay, I'll read it.
So are you finding out what these people want through reviews or through TikTok or like how are you do you read your reviews?
I don't really read my reviews because I mean like I get tagged in enough reviews that I see enough of it anyway, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I also usually have big arc teams, so I get like quite a wide variety of opinions just before the book even comes out, which is
Right.
great because by the time it goes out, it's kind of like doesn't really belong to me anymore. It belongs
Mhm.
to the readers. And so I don't it's not really my place anymore to read those reviews, I think, and it doesn't affect what I'm going to write. So it's not really informative to my writing process by that point.
Mhm.
Because usually the people who are really invested have already read it by then anyway. And
Yeah.
so I can kind of like, I'm writing for them. I'm writing for the people who love these books and
Right.
want more of them. And so I want to kind of cater my stories towards the people who are super invested in the series. Um, but I have, like a Facebook group and I have a street team and I have my TikTok. And so I have a lot of different places where I have my newsletter where I'll do like polls and things.
Mhm.
So I get like a lot of feedback that way from people who are like, invested in my stories and want to participate
Mhm.
in who they want to see more of, what parts of my worlds they want to be in more of. And things like that. And so I still get like a lot of good feedback on what people are looking for. So yeah.
Okay. And so yeah, I imagine the only time, at least when I'm like reading through, which my audiobooks don't get a ton of reviews, but like I'm always looking for like things that I need to fix. Like, is there any like
Mhm.
major issue that I need? I mean, I've had a couple that are like, didn't like my voice. I can't change my voice. Like, my voice is my
Right,
voice.
yeah.
That's not helpful. But I mean, there are other things that could be said for narrating that are things that you would want to fix. Same for
Mhm.
writing. Like, if now
Yeah.
you knew ahead of time, go to editors and beta readers and all of that. Um, some
Mhm.
authors. don't, and they get the feedback of it needs to see an editor. And so
Right, they get the feedback in the reviews, yeah.
yeah, so I imagine
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, there's a certain point where it's like, if you're getting contradicting reviews, it doesn't make sense to pay attention to them if they contradict each
Mhm.
other. But yeah, I plan on, I don't know. I don't know what I plan on doing. I'm like working on my own books
I
and
think
like
it's
thinking
good to
ahead.
read the, like, probably, like, the first, like, 200 reviews, like, I think it's good to read, like, the first few, but then at some point, it's just you can't keep up with them, and
Right.
it starts to be, like I think, like, there's nearly, like, 4,000 reviews on the
Oh gosh,
Mulford or something,
there's no
so
way.
it's not yeah, and it's just like, why would I subject myself to that? And I think in
Well,
your
and
brain,
spend
you
all
give
that
each
time too.
yeah. Yeah, and you in your brain, you always give the negative reviews more weight.
Right.
And I think that it's just I don't know. I mean, some people can do it completely objectively, but for me, it's like, why ruin my day? Like,
Yeah.
why do that? Like, I could read 10 5-star reviews that are like, this book means so much to me. It's my favorite book in the whole world. And one 2-star review that's like, meh. And that would do it, I'd just be like, fine, it's terrible. Everything I do is terrible, So it just, yeah, it doesn't really do anything for me at that point. So, and by then I've had hundreds of people go through it and give me
Specifically
feedback
to,
and
yeah, like ARC
yeah,
readers are,
flag things
yeah.
and like say like this was really confusing. I didn't understand what was happening here and like all of that stuff. So hopefully by then it's kind of in a good shape at least, and
Right.
it's never going to be and everyone's cup of tea. That's the thing is
Right.
like I think a lot of authors get so overwhelmed by all of the feedback that they forget how to write their own stories and speak
Mhm.
in their own author voice. And so if it's gonna even positive reviews can stall people out from writing because they'll be like, "This is the greatest book ever," and you're like, "Well, crap! Now I don't know how to write another book after that."
Yeah.
Then, so it's just like it just gets in your head, and it's not something that I find really
Helpful.
helpful at that
Yeah.
point. Yeah, yeah, it just kind of stalls you out, and you'll have people whose like part that they hated, the reason that they hated the book is the reason that somebody else loves it and it's their favorite book. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Right.
how can you write to please both of those people? You can't.
Yeah.
And so that's when you have to go, these are the stories I want to tell. If there's any like useful feedback, take it. But like otherwise, you gotta just keep telling there's lots of tropes, especially in romance, that some people love and some people hate.
Mhm.
Um, like fated mates, for example. And so you're just not going to you're never going to convince everybody to like that thing. And
Right.
you shouldn't try. Like it's their opinion and they absolutely have the right to not like that.
Right.
And so it's more about trying to just focus your energy on finding the people who do like the things that you write and kind of invite them into your world. And that's kind of just the people I put my energy towards. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I have, so I just hit where I can do lives now on TikTok, and so this week I did my first,
Yay.
like I got permission to do, like, live narrations with, like, a couple books, and so I've been, like, doing those, and so I've gotten my first, like, journey into blocking idiots that get onto these
Yep.
lives and are, like,
So many.
spouting their my husband's basically like, You've just got trolls," and I'm like, it doesn't even, like, phase me at all because 'cause I'm like, "Really?" Like, the first one was like, "You're fat, you need to lose weight," and I'm like, "And what's your body fat percentage?" Like, all these other questions, and I'm like, "Really?" Like, the thing that comes out of my mouth is, "You think I don't know this?" Like,
Like,
okay.
what are you trying like, and?
Yeah, I'm like, "And you
Like
coming on here and saying this helps me
right?
how?" Like,
Yeah, exactly.
today's
Yeah,
was
I'm
I don't
like,
remember.
I like my size 22 pants tell me that every day, and I love my body, so F off,
Yeah, it's
like
like I don't even know. Now there was one person on there that like stuck up for me or whatever, and I afterwards like we followed each other, and I like thanked them for like thank you, and she was like, oh my, I don't know how you did that with like so much grace, and like it didn't even phase you at all, and I'm just like,
yeah.
you can't
Oh, I've
if
never
you
I just always
entertain
block them.
them, it's gonna be worse. So yeah, I figured out how to block on a live yesterday.
I mean, you get trolls in every form of social media,
Yeah.
but I think that, like, the doing it in lives is because they want to see that like instant reaction. And you think about the sort of person who does that and how like sad they must be to
Yeah.
like need that
I
that's
want to
the
get
kind of
yelled at.
attention they need.
Like,
Yeah, like they're like, this is the only time I'll be acknowledged as being like a living human being in my day is by
yeah.
riling people up and getting them mad at me.
Well, and
And
I'm
I just
like
like the
not
mom
going
in
to
me
give
just
that.
sees them as like toddlers, you know,
Yeah.
like
Well, I'm
it's like
like,
I know what you're doing.
well, another one was like, you sound like a newscaster as I'm like narrating this book. And so, like, I said, what does that mean? Because that's the second time I've gotten that comment. You sound like a newscaster. I'm like, is that a good, like, for you? Because, like, I'm going to talk the way that I talk, but like, for you, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because, like, it's a
Right.
weird comment.
Well,
So,
I feel like people who don't listen to audiobooks don't understand that there's a cadence
yeah,
to it,
yeah,
you know, because it's different. It's storytelling. And I think that it's like when you have like a hip hop dancer and a ballet dancer, and
it's
it's like,
different.
well, this is how I speak when I'm
Yeah,
making this kind of content, and this is how I speak making this like art form. And
yeah,
they're like two different
yeah.
forms of art, you know, and so you can't compare. And yeah, I think that I'd be surprised if there are people who listen to audiobooks who are making those comments, you know.
Yeah, I had
So
well, and what
yeah.
was funny was someone said that, and then I guess they thought I don't know, I thought I said it nicely, like, "What do you mean by that?" And they were like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you mad." And I'm like, "I'm not mad, I just, like, genuinely wanna know, like, is that a good
Yeah.
thing or a bad thing for you? Because 'Cause you're my second person to say that." And then someone else comments and is like, "I'd listen to you say the news all the time." Like, they would love to listen to
It's
that. I'm like,
nice. I feel like it's
Whatever."
like a lot of narration kind of has like this almost like masseuse voice to it, you know. It's very
Yeah.
like soothing, and like it feels like you're being told a bedtime story, you know. You just want to like lie down and listen to someone tell you a story and take you away. And then it gets into the characters or the action and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're like you know, you're totally pulled in. And
Now, I do
I
have to
love that.
say, the best audiobooks I typically read my books. I have a hard time focusing, which is funny
Mm.
since I'm an audiobook narrator, but I have a hard time, like,
And I'm the
focusing.
opposite, which is so funny because I write, you know,
Yeah,
books,
but, like,
but I
the
prefer to
best
listen.
the
That's that.
best audiobooks that I've ever heard is the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series was done by the actor that plays
Mm.
Gollum. Andy
Yeah, Andy
Serkis,
Serkis.
and, like, he is so, so good in those
I got
books.
to meet him.
Oh my god, how did that happen?
Well, my husband works for Weta, and so yeah, like works on the Hobbit films and stuff, and so we've gotten to go to like a few of the like showings
Premieres?
and premieres, and we've had a lot of the people who work on the films come when I used to work at the zoo, and so they'd have like private tours for the celebrities and kids working on the films and stuff, and so we'd get to like meet a lot of them and things. So yeah.
I remember hearing because like, he's a big deal in, like, narrator groups because, like, he does all these voices himself and, like, there's this video that would go around of him, like, talking on I think it's Letterman, it might be Kimmel, he's talking on one of those big talk shows, and they're like, "Here," and they hand him this narrating mic, and they're like, "I'm told you'll know what to do with this," and he, like, shows how he, like, gets into all these different positions to do these different characters, and I'm like, "I
I
gotta
love
listen to
it.
this book," and, then I saw some other thing, him talking about how he was, like, live narrating on YouTube during COVID to, like,
Mm,
entertain kids, and that's how he ended
love
up
that.
on the audiobooks. Like, they found out that he had done the live read and they were like, "Hey, we want you to do the audiobooks." So
That's
he did.
amazing. Oh my
I'm
gosh,
like,
I love
that's
that
like
so
the
much.
dream. Like, you put out these books, same with authoring. You put out these books and you
Mhm.
just hope that like one day one of these things that you do, you hope will get discovered by someone that not that nobody matters, but like somebody that's going to matter at one of these big companies that will take off. It's like
Yeah,
the dream in the arts.
someone call Netflix, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's funny, so I have 2 authors that have said, like, they would one author said, "I will do anything to, like, have my books made into a, like, TV series or whatever." And then I'm interviewing another one, which she found my podcast on social media, and I like pitched her to narrate her book. And I'm talking to her on this podcast, which was a separate one from the one she found me on. And she's like, "Oh yeah, we have like an old family friend who like used to be the book searcher for TV networks, and she loves my book and wants to pitch the series to her old boss." So like,
Networking. There
I'm
you
like,
go.
that might happen.
That's amazing.
It's a, crazy stuff happens, but yeah, I mean, you never
Mhm.
know what one person is going to stumble across your TikTok or, your
Yeah.
book in the bookstore if you get it in. I know like Barnes and Noble, you can get as an indie author, you can get into your local Barnes and
Yeah.
Noble stores.
I had
Um,
my books weren't really stocked here in New Zealand, but in the States they were stocked in quite a few Barnes& and Nobles on the, like, book talk tables, but they
mm,
don't tell you. They don't tell you
right.
which stores,
Yeah.
so you don't know. Like, people will just be like, "Oh, hey, it's your book here in Florida," or wherever, and, you just are like, "Oh, okay, cool." There's, like, a few stores in different places that were carrying them, but now it'll be a lot easier to find them, hopefully, so
Have you seen like the authors that will go in and like sign their books in the bookstore? Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't
I
exactly
don't
do
think I
that
could
from New
do that.
Zealand.
Yeah, well, I mean, they will be hopefully, yeah, in stores here soon, and will be in Australia when they come out, but in Australia too, because Harper Voyager UK is also doing a release of them as well. So there's Harper
Mm,
Voyager US and UK,
mhm,
and the UK one is doing all of the like Commonwealth countries,
mhm.
um, and so like they should be there, but I don't think I could. I'd have to go with a friend or someone to say like, because I couldn't go up to them and be like, "Oh, hey, I'm not like vandalizing these these books.
Well, isn't
I
your like
actually
face
wrote
on
them."
the back? Like, isn't that standard? You like
Yeah,
point to
yeah,
your face on the book. It's me.
it's me. Yeah, but just I don't know. It feels very like weird to just be like, "Oh, hey, can I just go sign these books?" Like,
It's me, I
it's
swear.
that Kiwi modesty thing where
Yeah.
you
I
know.
think that's awkward for anybody in any country. Like,
Yeah.
unless you've been doing it for like years and years and years, it's just, I mean, it's that imposter syndrome. Like, it's just weird.
I saw a
Um,
TikTok of Colleen Hoover and E.L. James going into a bookstore and they signed each other's books and then
oh,
signed them themselves too. I was just like,
you had to pick
that
up
is
that
such
book and be
a
like, what?
wow, Colleen Hoover signed my 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, that's
But
so
like
weird.
just I was like, that's so cool. What a like power couple like those two are. Just like how cool to have like get an extra signature from an awesome author on your book. Like that's cool.
I ask all of the authors that I narrate for to send me signed copies. I'm like totally
Oh,
willing to
I love
pay for
that.
them, but they always don't make me. But I just like want this collection of like these are the books that I've narrated, even though I narrate
Yeah.
under not my legal name. I'm like I just want this
Mhm.
like collection of one day some family member be like, "What are all these random books here?" I can be like, "I
Yeah.
narrated all those."
This whole shelf is
Yeah.
all books that yeah, I love that.
So I have forgotten for the last couple of them, but I'm always like, "Hey, like, what would I need to do to get a signed copy? Like, do you have them on your website or like?"
Right? I
Most of them
know,
do.
yeah. I'm terrible with that. I, like, don't really do signed copies because it costs, like, $100 to send a book from New Zealand,
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's just, like, people are like, "Oh, well, I'll pay," thinking that it'll be, like, $20 shipping, and it's,
Yeah.
like, $100 shipping plus, like, the cost of, printing the book. They don't print them here, so I have to ship them internationally to me to
Mhm.
sign. So it ends up being, like, $200.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
So it's just is like way too expensive. I do it for like my like top tier patrons on Patreon. I'll send
Mhm.
them like a signed book from New Zealand, but it's really not something that I do. But with Harper Voyager now, I'll be able to do a lot more signed copies. So I'm
Mhm.
super excited about that because I've felt bad for the last year, just being like, one day,
Yeah.
one day I'll do them when I come to the States or something, but I just
Yeah.
can't sell and send signed copies from here. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one author from the UK that she was like, it's gonna cost a lot, and so, like, I go look at the and it was, like, $20 to get from the UK to here, and she was like, I wanna do a US tour and, like, all this stuff," and I was like, "If I have to pay for it, that's fine, but, like, I'm gonna wait till the trilogy is done and then have them all sent at
Yeah.
once, so I'm paying 1 shipping
Mhm.
instead of 3."
Yeah.
So,
Good call.
yeah. So I'm like, I'm just waiting, and she's still, like she's working on book 2 right now, so or she's almost done with book 2. But yeah, I'm just like, I'm just gonna wait on the trilogy, and then I'll order them all to come here, so 1 shipping cost of really high instead of 3 really high shipping costs.
Exactly, yeah. Well, and I hope in the next, couple of years, I'll be able to go to the States and things and do a few book tours around there as well. Like, next year, I'm doing some signings in Australia, so that'll be
Mhm.
fun to be able to, like, actually go meet people and do signings. But, yeah, I think some people will probably have to wait till I come to the States because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
just too far. Yeah.
So what kind of advice do you have for we talked about the mental health and protecting your mental
Mm,
health, but what kind of like tips, tricks, advice do you have for I mean, you're still relatively new yourself, but what kind of
yeah.
tips, tricks do you have for someone just starting out or researching or whatever?
I came from a visitor engagement background, like conservation engagement. So basically teaching people how to like deliver conservation messaging,
Mhm.
which actually comes in handy in like all forms of, like media and marketing. But I think the kind of main principle of engagement is treating people like people
Right.
and valuing them.
Mhm.
And that's
Not
like
calling
something
them
that I
fat on
yeah.
TikToks.
Well, first of all, yeah, just being kind to people in general, but like, the something especially on TikTok I see a lot is people who are kind of like number chasing of like they start to feel really down if they don't have, like a viral video or they don't have a
Mhm.
certain number of followers or they don't have like and they're just constantly searching for more, like more
Mhm.
numbers, but these like very like abstract numbers, not really even thinking of the numbers as people, right? Like
Mhm.
as readers, as potential people who might be your super fans who want to celebrate your books and cheer them on in the world. They
Mhm.
don't engage with the people on their profile and are just looking for the next hit of 100 followers or something.
Right.
And and so for me, I always just my advice to people is remember that like there's real people are reading your books and
Mhm.
to value them because they're the ones who go out in the world and recommend your books to other people and champion them and share them on other forms of social media and like you never know like I've had so many stories of people emailing me these really like intimate moments that my stories have helped them with.
Mhm.
And you just never know who those people are,
Right.
like they might just leave an emoji on your video, but they've had this whole massive story and relationship with your book.
Mhm.
And so like treat them with that level of kindness. And I think that really investing and valuing in the people who already want to be there and
Mhm.
welcoming more people into that space is going to do way more for you than getting another like 50,000 people who are just kind of like there but don't really care, you know?
Right.
Um, so that kind of quality over quantity and really investing in your readers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you are way more likely to have someone recommend you to a friend if you're that really nice author that always says, when you post you had a crummy day video, that author that reaches out and says, whatever the nice thing you may say may be, as opposed to
Mhm.
like I've never heard any person ever say, "Oh, you should go check out this author that has 50,000 followers."
Right? Yeah. It always surprises me when I'll reply to a comment on a video and people will be like, "I can't believe you replied to me," or "Thank you so much for replying," or "I really appreciate that, like you cheering me on or telling me I
Mhm.
can do it." And I'm always surprised, like, of course I'm going to, like of
Yeah.
course I'm going to cheer you on. I think it's awesome. Like you took the time to be here and watch this video and interact with me and I want to support you too, um
I always
and I
try not
think
to
that
fangirl too much when so I had watched you on TikToks, but it wasn't until recently that you followed me back. So, like I'm like, oh my God, AK followed me back. But
No.
like that happens with like everyone that I like, watch their videos and comment or whatever. Um, and not that I do this for them to follow me back, but I've noticed like the more that you interact with people
Yeah.
in their videos, the more likely they are to do that because it's like, oh, they're not
Mhm.
just, following me, so I'll follow them back. They're actually here
Yeah.
to like care.
That's usually when I follow people back is, like, when they've, like, commented on a video or, like, something like that. Because I do have, like, for a while, I would just basically immediately follow back any, like, book-related account,
Hmm.
and quite often, I would either have them immediately unfriend me or unfollow me after I followed them back, or, they would immediately message me being like, "Can you promote my book doing this thing?" And I'm like, we've never
No.
talked to each other before. We don't even
Yeah.
you don't even know me, but you're instantly messaging me being like, "What can you do for me? How can you do this stuff for me?"
Yeah.
And so I just stopped doing that. And so now it's usually like if somebody is like commenting or engaging with me that I'll follow them back because I'm like, oh, they really want to like be friends. They want
Right.
to talk to
Yeah.
each other. And like that's what I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yay. Awesome.
It was weird too. So we did the big film narration day, right? And this has
Yes.
been a couple weeks ago now. But like some of those authors, like I had my video got my like call out video for like, hey, authors message me got way more views. Like I had like 5 times more views on that video than any other narrator had on theirs. And so like the quantity of narrators or authors that were like reaching out to me, um, but, like, most of them I wasn't friends with. It was, like, because my that video got over 1,000 views, which was big for my videos to get over 1,000
Yeah.
views, and I'm just like, what do I do? So, like, I was basically, I think in the video I said, "Reach out to me on other," and, you don't wanna say, "Click the link in my bio," because then that will get
Yeah.
suppressed, but it's like, click the
Mhm.
thing, go to the thing in the thing, because I have, my Instagram on there and my link
Yeah.
tree or well, I have my links are on my own website, but it's like a link tree on there. Just for like, here's how to reach out to me. But yeah, it's weird because yeah, same thing. Like authors. Now I haven't had a whole lot. I've had a few that like want me to go read their book. Like they'll immediately send me a "Hey, go buy
Mhm.
my book" kind of thing. But then
Mhm.
occasionally I'll put up videos that are like, hey, I want a book that has a twist I'm never going to see coming in it because, like, I'm very rarely surprised by a book. And so I appreciate books with good twists. And so those ones, if you comment on one of those, I'm literally asking you to
Yes,
recommend me books
totally.
to go buy.
Yeah.
So,
You want that. Yeah.
yeah.
I do lots of videos where I'm like, what's your favorite this or what do you like about that?" And I love when people like comment their books. And then there's other times where I'm just like, it's a video of my dog and they're just like copying and pasting links to their books in it. And I'm like, what are you doing?
You're like,
What are you do you think this is gonna
this is
work
not
for you? Like,
effective.
is this the strategy that you think is gonna like get you somewhere? I don't get it,
I had the
because there are
funniest.
so many videos that are like,
Yeah.
"Authors, please tell me about
Yes.
your book." That's like it's like people are hungry for it. They're asking
Yeah.
for it. Like, go comment on those videos,
Talk about it on your own social media, don't spam people on other social
Yeah.
media. Yeah, I had the funniest call out thing that I've had. They put up a book for audition, so I go and audition for it, and then they come back and they're like, "I didn't like your audition, but I'm a coach," and it was, like, very rude, like, the whole thing was sort of very rude. "I didn't like your audition, but I'm a coach, so I can help you make it better," and I'm like, "And I would never hire you because of this approach." Like,
Yeah, exactly. Is this what you're
no.
doing? You're just, like, trolling through these
That's
things trying to
yeah.
find people to yeah,
I'm
no.
like, I
I
don't
I
know.
don't like when people do like use these kind of like sketchy marketing tactics to try and get people's attention. Like it's
Well, and
the
it has
fastest
to
way to like
work.
shut down. Yeah, well, yeah, it does. It's a numbers game of like if I
Yeah.
hit 10,000 people. I've had so I have this other TikTok account that's just animal videos, just
Okay.
videos of animals. Um and I had there's this like this one like author dude who keeps following and unfollowing me like every other week, trying to like, I guess, get me to follow him back. Like, And I'm like not interested because you act like this. Like, why would I
Yeah,
want
that's
to
so
interact with you?
weird.
But then he followed my animal account, and I realized he'd just gone through all of my like followers and just followed everyone
Oh,
on the entire
so
list of
weird.
people to try and get some of them. And I was just like, this is just so gross.
At
Like
this
this
point,
is just such gross marketing.
I remove anyone that follows me that, like, I go look at their thing and they're following, like, an astronomical amount of people,
Yeah.
and they only
Yeah.
have, like, 10 people following them back. I immediately, like, remove them because I'm like, "You are being sketchy." Like, you are
Yeah.
intentionally going out and trying to get people to follow you just for so you can
I'll
get
have
to do
people
lives and be a
like
creep, I don't know.
yeah, like they'll tag me in videos about their books. Like it has nothing to do with me. And they're just like, we're not friends. I've never interacted with their videos. They've never interacted with my videos. And they'll just tag me in videos going like, look at like my book cover thing. You can buy it here and go buy this book now. And it's like tags 10 random authors. And I'm like, why are you doing this? This is just the fastest way to like, you're really missing out on the whole community because if you're actually like friends with other authors, they might give you like tips
Yeah.
and tricks for like good marketing and you know,
Yeah,
like
like,
get good advice
plan
and
yeah, like, be friends with
mm,
people, and they will
mhm.
help you later, but you
Exactly.
have
And
to
that's
build
how
the
to use
relationship.
author friends. It's
Right,
you have author friends to be like, where did you get your cover designer from? Or what editing
right.
software do you use? Or like, how did you do this thing? And like you ask each other questions and cheer each other on. You don't market to other authors, you know, you market to your readers and
You're right, which could
your
be
readers
other authors,
and they
but
could be, but they'll
yeah,
be in the acting in the reader capacity at the time,
right.
you know, you don't hit up authors for especially if they don't even write in the same genre as you. Like I've had
Yeah,
people who write like horror or thrillers like hit me up for stuff and I'm like we don't like I don't know how much of our readership is the
it's not a
same, you
cross,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, like I'd love to talk to you about craft, you know, because I love talking
Yeah,
about writing and I'd love to help you with this stuff, but I don't think that this is the way to use a
market.
relationship with an
Yeah,
author.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I've had, like,
Yeah. Funny.
narration-wise, I'll say, like, I prefer fantasy to narrate, but, like, I'll do other stuff, but, like, I prefer fantasy, which means what? That means that my best books, my easiest to do, my ones that are probably gonna come out the best are gonna be fantasy ones because that's, like, my favorite, that's what I like. Not that I do a bad job on the other ones, it's just those are gonna be extra good because that's what I like the best.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, authors are gonna be the same way. If you are a fantasy author, you're probably going to read a lot of fantasy books to be like in that genre to know what is happening, what's going on, what other people have done. You're not going to randomly go read, a detective book to see
Yeah.
how can I better do my fantasy book using this detective book. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I love reading every genre and I get ideas and like things from everything, but it is that, you know, it's not, I'm not marketing towards like mystery readers, you know?
right, right. You're not going to go into your Facebook ads and put people who like mystery
Right.
books.
Yeah, exactly. Dan Brown. People will love my books.
So I guess your
Mm.
tips and tricks are know your market. Don't
Mhm.
don't be weird with your
Yeah.
like
Treat people with kindness, you
yeah,
know, like yeah.
like
Don't be
people.
the like door-to-door salesman of
Ugh,
the internet, you
they're
know?
so icky.
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
any parting words or words of wisdom before we go?
No, I think that's it. Yeah. Just you know, take care of yourself, take care of your mental health and be kind to your readers and yeah, that's it.
And write the book that you want to write.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much for this do-over day and for taking another Saturday.
No worries.
I'll eventually get to reading your books because I do love fantasy books. I just have to get a little bit ahead on my narration stuff before I can do fun reading. So
I totally understand. People in the industry are like the ones that we take the longest to get to other people's work, you know? Like we
yeah,
have so many author friends and we're like, it'll probably be a year or more before I
yeah.
read your book because I
In
have
fact,
to read my own book, you know?
well, like I said, I posted a video like wanting good like twist things, and then I had authors
Mhm.
that were like, "I'll send you a free copy," and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no," because it's gonna
Yeah.
take me forever to get to you. Like, I'm gonna buy your book because I know it's
Yeah.
gonna take me. Which is funny because one of the ones that was like, "You'll never guess what's coming." I'm now narrating her books at the beginning of the year, so now I'm
Oh,
like, now
that's
I have to
awesome.
read your books.
There you go.
So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I will 100% like, I don't expect free copies from anybody. Like people who are that way are just drive me
Yeah.
nuts. So,
Yeah, I have people who will, like, really be adamant they wanna send me stuff, and I'm like, "Please don't." Like, you know, like, I always say, you know, "Thank you, but I won't have time to read it," and, like, I had someone recently just be like, "No, no, no, I'll send it to you." Like, I just want and I'm like, I probably won't be able to read it," and they're like, "That's okay, I just wanna send it to you." And I'm like, "Okay," and then I get this, like, super crumpled box. It's,
oh
like, you
no.
know, like, completely rained in, the book's all, like, you know,
Ugh.
barely showed, and there's a note on top that's like, "This isn't a PR package, but if you could show it on your TikTok."
You're like, you don't want me to show this.
I'm like, "No, nobody wants to see this, like, really jacked up book," but also, like, I kept telling you I don't have time to read this
Yeah.
book, and then you sent me this thing anyway saying, "Show this on your TikTok," and I'm like, "That is so gross."
Well, and
Like
I'm not gonna talk about a book on my TikTok that I haven't actually read myself. Like, I'm not just
Right?
gonna talk
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, I had one of the authors that I did the or the video clip things for. She sent me, which now I'm narrating her books too. But she sent
That's
me her
awesome.
trilogy all signed. Like, she was like, give me your address, and I'm like, what for? She's like, I'm gonna send you the books. And I was like, at this point, we already had the contracts on the books, but I'm like, I typically ask for signed copies like at the end. She's like, well, I'm just gonna send them to you now. I'm like, okay.
Aw.
But yeah, super sweet. And yeah, I usually send authors gifts after interviews, but because you're all the way there, I have no idea how to. I had to tell Anne this
Yeah,
too. I'm
yeah.
like, I don't know how to get it to you. And then I send like a
Save your
Starbucks.
money.
I'm like, I send like a Starbucks gift card, and so I'm like researching if I send an American Starbucks gift card, does it work over there? And it was like, no,
Don't know.
no,
Yeah, I
it
don't
has
think
to
so,
be
and we don't really have
specific.
Starbucks here either. It's not
Well, I
really a thing.
think, yeah.
There's
Well,
one in
even
Wellington
Amazon
City, but
too. Amazon too. I couldn't do
yeah.
Amazon gift cards because it's specific to the country. Which
Yeah.
is weird, but I'm like,
No,
I can't
being
help it.
here was the gift, you know?
Being here
We don't need
twice.
gifts. Yeah.
Well,
Redo day, yeah.
thank you so much. You go get your kids breakfast, and I'm gonna go get air
Yes, it was
conditioning.
lovely
So
chatting with you. Get cool.
have a good.
Alright.
Is it Saturday there? It's Saturday for you guys, right?
Uh, it's Sunday here. Yeah,
Okay.
we're a day ahead.
All right. Well, have a good Sunday. I'm gonna have a good rest of
Thank
my
you.
Saturday.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
As she got older, A.K. Mulford liked fantasy books like The Hobbit. The Hobbit, or There and Back Again, is a children's fantasy novel by English author J.R.R. Tolkien. It was published in 1937 to wide critical acclaim, being nominated for the Carnegie Medal and awarded a prize from the New York Herald Tribune for Best Juvenile Fiction. The book remains popular and is recognized as a classic in children's literature. The Hobbit is set within Tolkien's fictional universe and follows the quest of home-loving Bilbo Baggins, the titular hobbit, to win a share of the treasure guarded by a dragon named Smaug. Bilbo's journey takes him from his light-hearted rural surroundings into more sinister territory. The story is told in the form of an episodic quest, and most chapters introduce a specific creature or type of creature of Tolkien's geography. Bilbo gains a new level of maturity, competence, and wisdom by accepting the disreputable, romantic fae and adventurous sides of his nature, and applying his wits and common sense. The story reaches its climax in the Battle of Five Armies, where many of the characters and creatures from earlier chapters reemerge to engage in conflict. Personal growth and forms of heroism are central themes of the story, along with motifs of warfare. These themes have led critics to view Tolkien's own experiences during World War I as instrumental in shaping the story. The author's scholarly knowledge of the Germanic philology and interest in mythology and fairy tales are often noted as influences. The publisher was encouraged by the book's critical and financial success, and therefore requested a sequel. As Tolkien's work progressed on its successor, The Lord of the Rings, he made retrospective accommodations for it in The Hobbit. These few but significant changes were integrated into the second edition. Further additions followed with minor emendations, including those reflecting Tolkien's changing concept of the world into which Bilbo stumbled. The work has never been out of print. Its ongoing legacy encompasses many adaptations for stage, screen, radio, board games, and video games. Several of these adaptations have received critical recognition on their own merits. Today, we'll be reading the first chapter of The Princess and the Goblin by George MacDonald, which was one of Tolkien's favorite stories and helped inspire some of the fantasy creatures in his books. Don't forget we're reading Les Morts d'Arthur, the story of King Arthur and his noble knights of the Round Table on our Patreon. You can find the link in the show notes. Why the princess has a story about her. There was once a little princess who... But author, why do you always write about princesses? Because every little girl is a princess. You'll make them vain if you tell them that. Not if they understand what I mean. Then what do you mean? What do you mean by a princess? The daughter of a king? Very well. Then every little girl is a princess, and there would be no need to say anything about it, except that she is always in danger of forgetting her rank and behaving as if she had grown out of the mud. I've seen little princesses behave like the children of thieves and lying beggars, and that is why they need to be told they are princesses. And that is why, when I tell a story of this kind, I like to tell it about a princess. Then I can say better what I mean, because I can then give her every beautiful thing I want her to have. Please go on. There was once a little princess whose father was king over a great country full of mountains and valleys. His palace was built upon one of the mountains and was very grand and beautiful. The princess, whose name was Irene, was born there, but she was sent soon after her birth, because her mother was not very strong, to be brought up by country people in a large house, half castle, half farmhouse, on the side of another mountain, about halfway between its base and its peak. The princess was a sweet little creature, and at the time my story begins was about 8 years old, I think, but she got older very fast. Her face was fair and pretty, with eyes like two bits of night sky, each with a star dissolved in the blue. Those eyes you would have thought must have known they came from there, so often were they turned up in that direction. The ceiling of her nursery was blue, with stars in it as like the sky as they could make it. But I doubt if ever she saw the real sky with the stars in it, for a reason which I had better mention at once. These mountains were full of hollow places underneath, huge caverns and winding ways, some with water running through them, and some shining with all colors of the rainbow when a light was taken in. There would not have been much known about them, had there not been mines there, great deep pits with long galleries and passages running off from them, which had been dug to get at the ore of which the mountains were full. In the course of digging, the miners came upon many of these natural caverns. A few of them had far-off openings out on the side of a mountain, or into a ravine. Now, in these subterranean caverns lived a strange race of beings, called by some gnomes, by some kobolds, by some goblins. There was a legend current in the country that at one time they lived above ground and were very like other people. But for some reason or other, concerning which there were different legendary theories, the king had laid what they thought too severe taxes upon them, or had required observances of them they did not like, or had begun to treat them with more severity in some way or other, and imposed stricter laws, and the consequence was that they had all disappeared from the face of the country. According to the legend, however, instead of going to some other country, they had all taken refuge in the subterranean caverns, whence they never came out but at night, and then seldom showed themselves in any numbers, and never to many people at once. It was only in the least frequented and most difficult parts of the mountains that they were said to gather even at night in the open air. Those who had caught sight of any of them said that they had greatly altered in the course of generations, and no wonder, seeing they lived away from the sun, in cold and wet and dark places. They were now not ordinarily ugly, but either absolutely hideous or ludicrously grotesque both in face and form. There was no invention, they said, of the most lawless imagination expressed by pen or pencil that could surpass the extravagance of their appearance. And as they grew misshapen in body, they had grown in knowledge and cleverness, and now were able to do things no mortal could see the possibility of. But as they grew in cunning, they grew in mischief, and their great delight was in every way they could think of to annoy the people who lived in the open-air story above them. They had enough of affection left for each other to preserve them from being absolutely cruel for cruelty's sake to those that came in their way. But still they so heartily cherished the ancestral grudge against those who occupied their former possession, and especially against the descendants of the king, who had caused their expulsion, that they sought every opportunity of tormenting them in ways that were as odd as their inventors. And although dwarfed and misshapen, they had strength equal to their cunning. In the process of time, they had got a king and a government of their own whose chief business, beyond their own simple affairs, was to devise trouble for their neighbors. It will now be pretty evident why the little princess had never seen the sky at night. They were much too afraid of the goblins to let her out of the house then, even in company with ever so many attendants, and they had good reason, as we shall see by and by. Thank you for joining Freya's Fairy Tales. Be sure to come back next week to hear Marie's journey to holding her own fairy tale in her hands, and to hear one of her favorite fairy tales.